Hello, good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I hope you are doing well today. Welcome to day 2 of Vlogmas. I think it's day 2. I don't know. And today I thought we would just go over all the books I read in January of this year. I think January may have been my best month. I think I read 19 books in January, so we'll see as we go through. I do own all of these books as physical copies, but I'm not going to go through everywhere and dig them all up, so I'm just going to scooch over and I will put a picture of them up in the corner. So, full disclosure, last book I read in 2023, I finished on December 31st, 2023, and was Hurricane Wars. So the first book I read in January of 2024 was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, which is the final book in the Letters of Enchantment duology. It was fantastic. It's a 5-star series for me. I will say, if you were like me and found the fantasy aspect lacking in book 1, it's very apparent in book 2 compared to the first. Second book I read in January was Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. I think that's how you say her last name. This was a reread. I originally read it last year, but I wanted to reread it in preparation for the final book in the series coming out. I was a little worried it wasn't going to hold up to my expectations, but it was absolutely fantastic the second time around as well. The third book I read in January was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I really liked her Dreamland Billionaire series, so I was hoping this one would be good. I did really enjoy it. I didn't like it as much as the original trilogy, but that could have just been my mood at the time when I read it, because thinking back, it was excellent. The fourth book I read in January was Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kemmerer, which is the second book in the Defy the Night trilogy. I really liked it. It wasn't quite as good as the first one for me, but it was still really good, and I liked where it was going to for the final book. So, really good. It was still a 5-star read for me. I don't rate things super critically. I go on vibes. If I'm enjoying it, it's an easy 5-star for me. It's quite easy for me to give a book a 5-star. The fifth book I read this year was Raise the Bar by K.M. Gillis. They are an author from Prince Edward Island, which is where I'm from. So this is their second book in their Love in 2C series. It was really, really good. I still haven't read the third book in the series yet, so hopefully I will soon, because that's the one I'm actually looking forward to the most. The sixth book I read in January was Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, which is the second book in the Red Rising series. I read Red Rising at the end of 2023 and was terrified to start this one because I didn't think it could possibly be as good as the first book. It's fantastic. I regret not reading it sooner, and this is a series that I wish I could read again for the first time, just to go through all of those emotions all over again. It was so good. The seventh book I read in January was Glove Save by Tegan Hunter. It's a hockey romance series. I tend to like reading a romance after a big fantasy like a Pierce Brown book. It was really good. I enjoyed this series. It was a good read after a big fantasy. Book 8 of January was The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. I only started reading Elle Kennedy in 2023, and I do really, really enjoy her books. So this was fantastic. I really liked it. Her off-campus series is my favorite but I think The Campus Diaries might be a close second. Book 9 in January of 2024 was Neutral Zone, also by Tegan Hunter. I wasn't quite ready to jump back into a fantasy yet, so I decided for that because I can generally get through her books quite quick, and it was good. Book 10 of January. I was trying to read short books at this point because I was waiting for the final book in the Defy the Night trilogy to come out. So I read The Risk, which is book 1 of the Mindfuck series, and it was good. I didn't hate it. It was good. It was very much, I think it was described as Criminal Minds meets like Twilight in a sense of Rosalie and Emmett kind of thing. So it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. That was a very quick read. So book 11 was Sidetracked, which was book 2 in that series. I still enjoyed it. It's not something that I think I would recommend to people to read, but at this point in that series, I was kind of enjoying it. Book 12 in January 2024 was Destroy the Day by Bridget Kammerer, which was the final book in the Defy the Night trilogy. I loved it. For me, this was a 5-star series. I know I had heard some people say that book 2 wasn't needed. I loved it the whole way through. And I know a lot of people like an enemies to lovers, but if you could get on board with an enemies to bromance, this is a really good series. And I really hope she does more with some of these characters because I think there's more to explore there. So it was really, really good. And I do recommend this series. Book 13 of January was Scarlet Angel, which is book 3 from the Mindfuck series. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. I was more kind of meh on this one, but I did keep going because at that point I wanted to know how it ended because apparently I'm a masochist and made myself read it. But Scarlet Angel, it was just kind of, it was meh. It was all right. Book 14 of January was Cage of Dreams by Rebecca Schaefer. I believe Rebecca Schaefer. If I'm wrong, I will put it in the comments, or maybe I'll put it on the screen. And I really like this. This was the sequel to City of Nightmares. City of Nightmares was the first book I got in my Fairy Loot subscription box, and I was a little sketchy on whether or not I was going to like it. It was a very fun read. Like, it was so unexpectedly good. And I felt the same way about this. It was just a really good series, and I kind of hope there's more to come. I don't know if there is. I think it might have just been a duology, but I really enjoyed it. Book 15, this one's a little touchy. I started it in summer of 2023, and it's The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, which is the final book in the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. The thing with his books is the font is so small, and I was getting migraines trying to read it, so I actually set it aside last summer, and I got my eyes checked. Now I wear glasses, so I still found the font small, so I got it on my e-reader and I made the font bigger so I could actually finish it, and I did finish it in January. One of my favorite series of all time. I would recommend it to anybody and everybody. It was so good. Book 16 of January was All the Lies, which was book 4 in the Mindfuck series. This is where it completely lost me. I hated this book, especially the end. The end of it was no. There's no coming back from something like that for me, which will go into book 17 of January, which is Paint It All Red, which is the final book in that series. I like it, but I didn't like it. Like, I like that certain things happened, but at the end of the day, I should have stopped after the second book in the series because the rest of it was just not for me at all. Totally cool if it's for you, but for me, it was not it. And the last and final book I read in January of 2024 was Lightbringer by Claire Legrand. This is the Imperium trilogy, I believe. This is the last book in the trilogy. I have to say, I enjoyed the first book. The second book was kind of iffy. I enjoyed this one more. And I feel like I didn't know how I felt about this series through the whole time I read it, book 1, 2, or 3. I just wasn't sure how I felt about any of the characters because there were very few of them that I actually liked or cared about living throughout the series. So that one was a little tough for me. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm happy I finished it, and I did like it. There's some things that I don't know, maybe a spin-off, I don't know. But at the end of it, it was really good, and I did enjoy it. So that was everything I read in January. I will say, out of like the YA fantasy that I read, my favorites were hands down Ruthless Vows and the entire Defy the Night trilogy. You can't go wrong with that. And then fun read, Cage of Dreams, so good. If you're looking more on the romance side, I would definitely go Elle Kennedy, The Graham Effect. It was really good. I would definitely, if you haven't read Elle Kennedy, I would definitely read the Off Campus series and Briar You first. There are some characters from there in this series, so it could give some perspective. But that one was excellent. Overall favorite, I would have to go Golden Sun and The Hero of Ages, and I cannot pick between them because they are two of my favorite series of all time, and I can't pick. And I won't, and nobody's making me, so those were my favorite books of January, and that's it for this one. Let me know if you've been reading or what you're reading, if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were, and see you next time. Have a good one.